Welcome to Build Your Maverick Business, the podcast for underdog, outlier, and renegade entrepreneurs. Brought to you by Strange Creative Studio. If you dream of going off on your own and launching your rebel empire, but don't know where to start, you're in the right place. We'll teach you how to use mindset, branding, and practical advice to build a killer business and transform your world. And now, here's your host, founder of Strange, Alex Pitt.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this first episode of Build Your Maverick Business. I had to stop and remember what the name of this bloody podcast was for a minute, because this is a whole new idea. This is something that I've definitely never done before. And I tell you what, I'm a little bit disappointed, because when I was talking to my boyfriend cum producer of said podcast about how we were going to do this, how we were going to record it and set it up, he told me that the best thing to do would be to build a duvet fort. And so I just did a little bit of test audio, sat at my desk without said duvet fort, and it sounded great. So I'm deeply disappointed. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm a 32-year-old woman. I can build a duvet fort if I want. And luckily I'm old enough now that I can drink wine in it as well. So yeah, that's my Friday night plans. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my bizarre social life. We are here to talk about maverick businesses. And the reason we talk about maverick businesses is not just a buzzword, that idea of building a maverick business. Creating a business that breaks the mold and does things in a disruptive way. You can't see me doing my air quotes right now, but it's something that I'm very well experienced in and very well versed in. I am the founder of Strange. Now, Strange is a creative branding agency. So we do everything you'd expect a branding agency to do. We get to know our clients, we find out what makes them tick, and we translate it visually into their logo, their colour, their fonts, their website, all of that jazz that you need to run a business. But I did that before I started Strange. I used to be a freelance graphic designer, and I did exactly the same thing, but I did not fucking enjoy it anywhere as much as I do now. And I tell you what, my career as a freelancer was nowhere near as successful as my career as the founder of Strange. And I put so much of that down to the fact that I finally learned to be vulnerable, and I finally worked out what I really give a shit about. And I worked out what my values are and what my mission is, and all of this stuff that you hear business owners talking about, like you've got to have a mission statement, you've got to have a brand story. And I think up until I started my brand, I always thought that those were just boxes that you tick so that you have stuff to put on your website. And when I did it for myself, when the Strange brand was born, I was like, holy shit, this is really powerful stuff. All of a sudden, I've gone from, handing out business cards at networking events, and I'm pretty sure all of them ended up in the bin after I handed out my very pretty business cards, because my business was really transactional. It was, hello, I am Alex and I can design you something. And no one gave a shit, like, that's really nice. It's also really fucking forgettable. Now, no one forgets Strange. And the reason being that, who the fuck names their business Strange? It's bizarre. Our website is goth as hell. It's glitchy. It's all over the place. It's loads of images of people with tattoos and piercings. And no one's ever really seen anything like that. And that's worked out really well for me. And it's not just because I've plucked all of this stuff out of the air. Everything that exists within my brand, from the way we speak to the way we look to the work that we do, comes back to my story. And to give you an example of how that's done, I want to share that story with you today. So I'm going to take you back to the year 2004, when I was the most awkward, the lankiest, the funniest looking, socially inept human being. This is such an overshare. It's all relevant though, I swear. So when I was 14, it was the first real realization that I had that I wasn't what you would call a normal kid. I always stood out from the crowd, and not necessarily in a good way. So when I was about 14, I hit 5'11", so I always towered over everyone in my class. I dyed my hair black because I was really into, AFI, My Chemical Romance, what you'd call like the emo music. But I also was really into like ABBA and Simple Minds and a lot of music of the 70s and 80s. And so even the York kids were just like, who the fuck is this? Didn't really fit in there. And I started to feel like I didn't have a place in the world, that I didn't fit in and I never would. And it's quite a crippling feeling, that when you just feel kind of isolated because there's no one there that feels the same as you. So I kind of went through life in my late teens and early 20s, and I tried to change myself to fit in. So I started listening to the bands that my friends were listening to, and I started dressing like I saw other people dressing. And I dyed my hair blonde, which when you've box dyed your hair for several years, it goes a bit ginger. It breaks to shit. I don't recommend it. But I went through all of these things and I tried to fit in, and it didn't stick. It just felt awful. And it was only when I got to my late 20s that I started to feel like maybe if it's just going to feel weird anyway, it should feel weird on my own terms, right? So I chucked out all my flowery dresses, I stopped dyeing my hair blonde, and I just started dressing in black and being a bit goth again and reconnecting with my youth. But really embracing that idea of being a weirdo, of being a weird kid and not fitting in and not trying to sugarcoat anything about myself. Telling everyone that I have an embarrassing amount of Lego and Star Wars merchandise for a woman in her 30s. That I still have the most batshit insane taste in music. Like, the Spotify algorithm has no fucking clue what it's doing. It doesn't know what to make of me. And all of these things, all of these little quirks and weirdnesses, they're not weaknesses. They make me memorable. They make me stand out from a crowd. And when you're running a business, that is absolute fucking gold dust, right? If you blend in, it's like business kryptonite. You're going to sink into mediocrity and everyone's going to forget you. So why I ever thought that it was a bad thing to stand out from the crowd is absolutely beyond me. And you know what? I tell people that story. I tell people how I came to accept myself, and people really resonate with it. Everyone has felt like a weird kid and a misfit at some point in their life. And the way now that I build that story into the work that I do is that I want to be able to help founders realise that standing out from the crowd is this superpower, right? So I want to help those founders create a brand for themselves which feels as real and as genuine and as powerful to them as Strange does to me. Because, I mean, look at my website, look at everything that I do. It is so unapologetically me. And it represents the work that I do. It is so memorable, and it doesn't look like anything that anybody else has done. So what we do for founders now is help them visually translate everything that they are. Because design is just a language, and you just need to find out what a person is like and then translate it visually. That's what we do. So now our mission statement, and this is so important to understand what your actual mission is, because no matter what you sell, no matter what you do, you're offering a transformation to people. And if everyone in the world were to benefit from that transformation, then the world would hopefully be a better place, as long as you're not some sort of sociopath who's trying to do awful things to people, which hopefully you're not. And if you are, stop listening to this podcast. Our mission statement is to empower and inspire outliers, underdogs, and renegades to carve out their place in the world. So every time I say that out loud, I'm like, shit, I need to get that tattooed on my... I absolutely love that statement. But everything comes back to feeling like that weird kid, right? And now we have this brand. Like, I run this business that has a brand so powerful that people remember it. And all of the content that we put out, all of the products that we put out, everything just flows from that. I'm not second guessing myself anymore. I'm not trying to scramble to look at what other people are doing. I'm not chasing down customers. We're attracting fans. And it's just the best feeling ever. I cannot recommend enough doing some digging and working out what really lights you up. Or even if it's just the injustices that you faced across your life, if there are things that happened to you, if there are stories that you can tell that make you better understand why you were put on this earth, that can be translated into the most phenomenal fucking brand, I swear. And that is what's going to make people follow you. That's what makes people get excited and want to invite you into their lives. So that's my invitation for you for this first podcast, is go away, think about anything that's happened to you in your past that you would be proud to say, this is why I come to work every day. This is the story that inspired the brand. That's it for this episode, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will be back with you next week with some more sweary ramblings. See you.
Building a maverick business of your own? Don't leave your branding to chance. We have a range of strategy and design packages to kickstart your killer brand and help you find your raving fan base. Book a free discovery call with Alex today at strangecreativestudio.com.